So Gosha, we spent the last couple of days meeting people from Council of Europe, Venice Commission, discussing about mechanisms and instruments that we have at our disposal to make our jobs better as civil society organizations. So what are some of the challenges you've encountered?
Well, yeah, first of all, it was super interesting for 3 days, and it was very nice to hear from many colleagues on the experience in working with Council of Europe. But also my personal highlights were meeting with the representatives of the Dutch administration and parliament, because I think for the RARE it puts everything we do in a very international context, and it was so nice to have this special time dedicated to look into particular problems we are seeing. As human rights activists and everyone who does advocacy for the human rights, we have to familiarize ourselves with the concept that the Council of Europe is completely different than the European Union, although in, I think, public opinion, those two institutions seems to be very similar. I'm not sure if it's that case in Romania.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. How many times people confuse European Court of Human Rights with the European Union institutions, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I would say that the first challenge we see is actually how to wisely promote the work of the Council of Europe back in our countries. Both countries, Poland and Romania, have been members of the Council of Europe for how many? Almost 30 years or more, right? So, and for Poland, the European Court of Human Rights became like the super human rights court that is treated as the natural part in your litigation strategy, right? But not many people still do not realize how important it is for the entire system. And right now in Poland, with all the ongoing rule of law crisis, when the government tries to undermine the independence of all national courts, it also targets the international courts like the Luxembourg Court or the European Court of Human Rights, undermining the protection of the citizens. Long story short, I think the biggest challenges for us is, first of all, how to wisely promote the work of the Council of Europe, and secondly, how to closely monitor the work of the Council of Europe so our work can actually add something new and valuable to the table. I'm not sure what is your take on that.
To be honest, I think I feel the same way. We were much more familiar with Venice Commission, I think, especially in the last couple of years, where the Venice Commission opinions played a really important role on proposed reforms in the judiciary, criminal code amendments. So Venice Commission has been much more visible, so has been the ACHR and the case law that it has in Romania. But I was also surprised to find out that there's so much more than that,
Absolutely.
The Council of Europe can do to help us to do better our jobs, but for us also to contribute more to their process. And I was very surprised in a very positive way to find out actually how we can actually start working more together in very technical areas where it's very helpful for both of us, I think. I'm super, excited to go back home and to look a little bit into what we're doing and see how we can actually start doing some of those things. So for me also, it's been, a very interesting learning experience for myself, although we've already worked so much on a lot of these things, but it goes to show you have so much to learn all the time.
Well, exactly. I mean, I thought that I covered the work of the Council of Europe pretty well, but my personal takeaway is the information on the 7 reports that are under preparation concerning climate change and human rights. I think it's very strategic, and I think organizations like ours has a lot to contribute to that, because the climate crisis is an overarching issue influencing so many areas on the fundamental rights protection. For example, freedom of assemblies, right? When we see crackdown on civil society organizations, especially youth organizations, when they take their course to the street and how they are treated by the police during the, for example, sits-in on Fridays for climate. So I think there's as you say, that was very eye-opening also to have the time to reflect and to work on that more strategically, and most important, not take the Council of Europe for granted and they work.
I have to say that I also agree with your point. I learned a lot from you, from colleagues from Hungary, on how you already advocate for in the Council of Europe and their committees. So I also found it super useful, aside from the speakers that we had. Yeah, exactly, experiences from other NGOs in the region. And I think it's becoming, it's something that we've been working on as an organization for the last couple of years, of discussing all of these problems at the regional level. But I think the fact that we're all here and exchanging these experiences, it just makes it more and more, it makes more sense now than it did before. It did before as well, but even more now to see that a lot of the problems that we have are regional. All of these countries are dealing with the same things, and that we have so much to learn from each other, and it's actually a more successful, I think, enterprise if we do it together. Then, so for definitely RARE had it right with this.
So see you in Strasbourg then.
Yeah, exactly.